Hello, friends. My name is Edgar. I'm the host of the channel. Welcome. The story I bring today could be experienced by anyone at any time or place who has never had imaginary friends. The event I'm going to tell you, as incredible as it may seem, happened to me when I was a teenager, and it was a true story. And to this day, I can't explain what happened. I'm not crazy, and I've never had any emotional or psychiatric problems. So what happened with my full lucidity and awareness. I didn't imagine all that. When I was a teenager, I was a girl who didn't have many friends. That was just the way I was. I didn't like going out much, and I stayed home reading, watching movies, and studying. Many people thought my attitude was strange, but I didn't mean any harm. I liked being that way. It all started when one day at school during recess, a girl approached me and started talking to me. She was very nice and seemed very friendly. She said her name was Wisa. As we talked, I discovered that we had a lot in common. She said that she didn't like going out much either and stayed home doing activities like reading books and watching movies. Because of this, and also because of things we had in common, we became friends and started meeting at school and talking whenever possible. Although we built a beautiful friendship, she avoided telling me where she lived. She always changed the subject. She would just say that she lived near a church in another neighborhood. Maybe because of my age at the time, I didn't care much about things, and I didn't even bother to find out the details of where she lived. One thing I noticed was that Luisa only talked to me. I never saw her talking to other people at school, but since I was also a bit withdrawn, I didn't pay much attention to her behavior. Time passed and the holidays arrived. On the last day of school, we said goodbye, and at that moment, I felt very sad in her. I told her that I was going to travel, but when we got back from the holidays, we would see each other again, and then we would have a lot to talk about. So she just looked at me with a goodbye look and left with her head down. I was very saddened by that scene. I didn't quite understand why she behaved that way. I kept that sad image of my friend with me for a few days. At that time, not everyone had a phone, and cell phones didn't even exist in Brazil, which made it harder for people to communicate. So I didn't talk to my special friend anymore during the holidays. A few days after the holidays started, I traveled with my parents, and we went to spend some time at my grandfather's farm in the countryside. It was a very beautiful and pleasant place, which made the time pass quickly. Before I knew it, the holidays were already over. We then returned home, where I spent the rest of the holidays as usual, reading and watching some movies. A few days passed, and finally the day classes started again arrived, and I couldn't wait to see my great friend again. When I got to school, I looked for her, but I didn't see her at the entrance. When it was time for recess, I didn't see her either. So I thought that, since not everyone comes back on the first day of school, she might have been absent too. But I didn't find her on the second day of school either, or on the third. I was worried and went to look in the nearby classrooms, but I couldn't find her. I asked the other students about my friend and asked if anyone had seen her, but they all said they didn't know anyone with that description. I was worried and scared at the same time, so I went to the school office and asked about her. At the office, they asked me what my friend looked like, and I described her in detail: brown hair, brown eyes, white skin, etc. And they asked her name, and I said her name was Wisa. The people at the office asked if I was sure about my friend's name and description, and I said yes. Then they told me that the only Wisa who studied at the school was a girl in the 5th grade. I said that couldn't be, because my friend said she studied in the 7th grade. I then went to the 5th grade and found out for myself that the Wisa from there was not my friend. I looked, researched, asked, but no one knew Wisa, my friend. I was confused, panicked, and scared. because everything indicated that my friend Luisa had never been to my school. I never saw, met, or heard from my friend again, and to this day I wonder what happened because it seems like she never existed. I avoid talking about this with many people because not everyone believes it, but it was real and it happened to me. What could that have been? Where did my friend Luisa come from? And where did she go? Today, with more knowledge and awareness, I wonder, could it have been that my friend came from another dimension or another time, and when we separated during the holidays, she went back to her place of origin? I believe I will never know the answer. I only know that it was something that left a lasting impression on me, deeply, making this fact a supernatural experience in my life, having dreams about it to this day. It was something, as the website says, beyond imagination. Okay, friends, did you like the story? If so, subscribe to the channel and don't forget to leave your like. Can you handle one more story? This story was told to me by a friend of mine named Antonio Catagero, who had just arrived from a trip in the interior of Maranhão. He told me that he was in a GOL model passenger car, traveling with his wife and a friend of his. They had been traveling for some time, until it was late afternoon, already turning into night. At this point, he passed by a gas station on the side of the road and asked for directions to a certain village he was looking for. The guy at the gas station showed him the way, and he set off in that direction, despite his friend's insistence that they stay at the gas station for the night, but he didn't respond to his request. So they set off, and after a while in the darkness of night, they began to drive down a road full of potholes. The car was completely lowered and the ride was very uncomfortable. The road was pitch black because all you could see was the front, the sides, and the back were pitch black. Then, at a certain point on the road in a cornfield, on one side and the other was just cornfields, the car started to fail and would not respond to commands, and then it died. The engine would not start and only the electrical part worked, as well as the headlights. Suddenly, they heard a kind of buzzing noise outside the car, like a razor, only louder. So they started looking for what could be making that noise, and that was when they noticed something moving in the cornfield. And to everyone's surprise, they saw a being that looked like an Egyptian sphinx, with the golden body of a hominid being, with the face of a sphinx standing upright and floating. This being stopped in front of the car, and at that moment, they were all shaking, trying to start the car and at the same time, paralyzed by that extraordinary image. The being turned its face in their direction, stared at them, and then turned in another direction and sped off towards a cornfield. When the thing came out, the car immediately started working and they sped off through the potholes in the road, but they managed to get out of there. When they arrived at the nearest town, they told some people what had happened, describing what they had seen, and the people told them that there was a very high rate of people disappearing on that stretch of road, who were never found again, and no one knew what caused this. After what happened, he was traumatized, and avoids traveling at night at all costs, no matter where he goes. Well, I think we're done for today. No? Want one more? Let's go. Hi everyone, I'm 18 now, and I'm not sure about the story because it happened a long time ago and I still can't get it out of my head. I was 5 or 6 years old at the time, and I lived in a condominium in a city in the interior of Sao Paulo. One day I was playing outside the condominium with some friends and everything else that kids do, until my mother came to me and asked me to come in because it was late. I obeyed her. At the time, my grandmother was home visiting us. I didn't want to go in, so I told my mother to let me go back downstairs to continue playing, because several children were there too. So she let me. It was around midnight. So I went down the stairs. It was a gated community with several small buildings, and in this community there were several small trees to provide shade for the cars. When I went down, everything was calm. I didn't see any more children outside playing. That's when I looked ahead and saw a man dressed in all black, with a black hat and a black cape, and he was laughing at me. I couldn't see his face very well, but his face seemed disfigured, and his smile was wide. He was there laughing at me, leaning against one of the trees. As a child, I was terrified, and I ran into my apartment, and there I called my grandmother and my mother, shouting, "Mom, Mom, I saw something down there really strange. He was laughing at me. He looked like a monster." They didn't believe me, but they went down with me, and when we got down, he was no longer there. I still don't know what that thing was, but it left a big impression on me, and I'll never forget that moment.
Well, friends, we've reached the end for today. I hope to see you again. Subscribe to receive channel updates. Your like will be appreciated. Thank you. Until next time.